Good morning, Riverside and Delanco. Okay, we're in the Ogden kitchen getting ready for the day's activities. I want to encourage you guys to do your math today. We're doing subtracting polynomial expressions. As your health and physical education teacher as well, I want to encourage you to go out for a walk, ride a bike, stay 6 feet away from anybody who's out with you, but try and get out and enjoy the fresh air today. I think it's going to be about 60 degrees. So we have a little assignment for you today after some video. If you were okay with yesterday's assignment with adding, today you're going to subtract. So once I'm done my morning paper, staying up on the news, I'm going to get started with today's lesson, and I'll have that posted shortly. Good morning. Here's what we're working on today. Hey, how do you subtract polynomials? Section 17 or module 17.3
has been rewritten as a sum. The polynomials can be added using the horizontal method. Recall that this method uses the associative, commutative, and distributive properties to group and combine like terms.
So here's our first example that we'll be going over on the whiteboard. If you want to mark that down. All right, so here's the problem. Difference being today that we have a negative sign in between a subtraction going on. And really that's the same as we've talked about before, as multiplying by -1. So we're going to take this negative and change all of these signs and then make it addition. So it'll be the same as yesterday's lesson. So you can see that I changed the negative or minus sign to a plus sign, and all of these terms, all four of these terms in the polynomial have a different sign than they did originally. So now the process is the same as yesterday, where we're going to add those things that are in like terms. Okay, so you can see where I sorted out the things that were in like terms. Now in this quantity we had a y squared, and in this one we didn't have it, so we just brought that down. In this quantity we had a -4xy. We had nothing that said xy over here, so we brought that down. Here we had a -y, here we had a plus y, so we brought that down and combined like terms. And you know that's going to be 0. And then the x's, there was an x here and a 2x here, so we brought that down and put them together. And then of course our constant of 3, we weren't given a constant over here. And you can see our final answer. And this is just simplifying. There's nothing more we can do. There's no equal sign. We're just combining like terms. And there's your answer. Now I'm going to give you one to do. So get your pencils and paper ready for action.
And see how adding the opposite is the key to really figuring it out. So I want to take this polynomial and I want to subtract this polynomial. So what do? I add the opposite. So here's what I write. I write the first polynomial, n cubed minus n plus 4n squared. And now I'm going to add the opposite, which means I first distribute this negative sign. So I've got plus, and the opposite is going to be -6n plus 3n squared minus 8. Notice that is the opposite of this polynomial. The signs are all flipped. And now I'm just adding. So how do I add? Well, I combine like terms. I add like terms. So I'm going to look through here and scatter everything out. Are there any other n cubes besides that one? No. So I just have an n cubed all on its own. What about the n squared terms? I've got an n squared term here and an n squared term here, so I add them up. I've got 4n squared plus 3 more n squared. I've got a total of 7 n squared terms. Here I see a -n plus -6n that produces -7. 7n, or negative 7n, depending on how you want to read that. And then finally, I see just minus 8. And so there is the difference between these two polynomials. Notice all I did was add the opposite. So I changed the second polynomial to its opposite and then just added like normal.
So here's one for you to try as a practice problem. Give that a shot. Stop the video and write it down. I'm going to give you the answer in a second. All right, so your first step would just be to rewrite the problem. And you can see this minus right here is going to change the signs of this trinomial. So that's your first step. Okay, next up would be to move the things together that are in like terms. If you just wanted to use the check marks the way the professor did, that's fine. I took a second though and put the x thirds together. There's only one y squared, the y's and the x's. Okay, so these guys would cross out, they're opposites. The y squared comes down, the y minus y, they cross out, and then negative 2x minus 2x would be minus 4x. So that is your answer right there. All right, so that's it from here. I'm going to also assign you a short clip on Khan Academy, and then some questions that'll follow. Make sure you enter the exponents and things correctly. I think that's where a few of you may have run into problems with getting some wrong. In the background here, as you can see, that's Storm Tower's saddlecloth. He ran in the Kentucky Derby, and I'm fortunate enough to have that as part of my memorabilia here in the basement. Of course, they're moving the Kentucky Derby from the first Saturday in May all the way back to September this year. So anyway, go and check those problems out. Tomorrow there'll be a type of quiz online. Thank you. Have a great day.